On July 10th, 2024, near the Clifton suspension bridge in Bristol, passers-by spotted a man struggling with luggage. He dropped the suitcases and fled. Inside were human remains, dismembered, packed, and hidden in layers of plastic. The scene would launch one of the most gruesome murder investigations in recent UK history. The suspect, a Colombian adult performer, Yostin Andres Mosquera, later convicted of murdering 2 men and disposing of their bodies in cold, methodical fashion. Yostin Andres Mosquera, 35 years old, was no stranger to the adult entertainment industry. Originally from Colombia, he had spent years building a following online, creating explicit content, engaging with fans, and forming private relationships through social media. Behind that curated persona, though, was a man with growing instability and obsession. He developed a close connection with one of his future victims, Alfonso, a well-known swimming instructor in London. Their relationship mixed intimacy, money, and power, a dynamic that would later spiral into violence. Albert lived with his longtime partner, Paul Longworth, aged 62 and 71, in a cozy flat in Shepherd's Bush, West London. Mosquera had been staying there for several days before the murders, welcomed as a guest, trusted as a friend. But prosecutors would later uncover the darker reality. Long before the killings, Mosquera had been researching the couple, their finances, their home's value, and even online guides detailing decomposition, freezing temperatures, and ways to conceal bodies. What appeared to be a friendship was, in truth, a predator studying his prey. This was not passion, it was preparation. It began, according to investigators, on the evening of July 8th, 2024, inside the Shepherd's Bush flat. The first act of violence came suddenly and without warning. Paul Longworth was struck multiple times with a hammer, a brutal assault that left him dead within minutes. Forensic evidence showed repeated blows to the head, each one deliberate. With Paul's body hidden within the flat, Mosquera turned next to Alfonso. The second killing was more drawn out, more sadistic. During what began as a sexual encounter, one that Mosquera was filming, the violence escalated. The footage recovered later by police showed Alfonso trying to resist, as Mosquera stabbed him repeatedly. Amid the chaos, one phrase echoed from the attacker's mouth. "Do you like it?" When the silence returned, both men were dead. What followed was the calculated work of dismemberment. Mosquera methodically separated limbs, torsos, and heads, using knives and saws, wrapping parts in plastic, and storing them in the flat's chest freezer. Some remains were left on the floor, others packed into containers. Every movement, investigators later said, suggested focus and intent, not panic. 2 days later, the process of disposal began. 2 nights after the murders, Mosquera packed what he could carry into 2 large suitcases. They were heavy, sealed, and smeared with blood on the inside. He loaded them into a car and drove west from London toward Bristol. Investigators believe he intended to dump the remains off the Clifton suspension bridge, but the plan unraveled before he could. Near the bridge, witnesses noticed a man struggling with 2 suitcases that appeared to leak a dark fluid. Under streetlights, they could see it dripping, unmistakably blood. Realizing he had been seen, Mosquera dropped the luggage and bolted into the nearby woods, disappearing into darkness. Police arrived within minutes. When they opened the suitcases, they were met with horror: human torsos, limbs, and heads wrapped in plastic and cloth. The discovery turned an unknown disappearance into a double homicide. Back in London, detectives executed a search warrant on the Shepherd's Bush flat. Inside, they found the rest of the remains, frozen, wrapped, and hidden in various rooms. The blood spatter told the story of 2 killings and an attempted cleanup. Knives, saws, gloves, plastic sheeting, and cleaning chemicals filled the kitchen. Every surface was a map of violence. The forensic teams meticulously collected fingerprints, blood samples, and matching fibers. DNA from the flat, the freezer, and the suitcases connected everything. Surveillance footage from Bristol completed the chain, placing Mosquera near the dump site hours before discovery. For detectives, the Mosquera case was both a forensic nightmare and, in the end, a showcase of methodical police work. Every square inch of the Shepherd's Bush flat, every frame of CCTV, and every fingerprint lifted from the suitcases became part of a mosaic, a grim, detailed reconstruction of what happened over those few days in July. The digital and financial trail told investigators that this was not an impulsive act. Within hours of the killings, Mosquera attempted to access Albert Alfonso's bank accounts, using his phone and personal information to initiate transfers. Surveillance cameras captured him at multiple ATMs across London, testing cards and balances, while geolocation data placed his mobile devices in those same areas. His internet search history became one of the most incriminating pieces of evidence. Entries about how long it takes for human remains to decompose, how to clean a crime scene, how to freeze a body, and how to disappear without a trace. Combined, these digital footprints painted the portrait of someone thinking ahead, calculating consequences even before blood was shed. The physical evidence from the flat and from the suitcases left little doubt about his involvement. Inside the apartment, the chest freezer held severed heads, limbs, and torsos wrapped in layers of plastic. The forensic team cataloged an arsenal of tools: kitchen knives, a saw with fresh metallic residue, gloves, and rolls of plastic sheeting stained with blood. Each object was photographed and cross-referenced to the injuries found on the victims. Blood trails ran through the hallway and under door frames, revealing the path of dismemberment and cleanup attempts. Samples from these scenes matched traces found on the inside lining of the suitcases abandoned in Bristol, proof that the same tools, the same hands, had connected both places. Perhaps the most disturbing evidence came in the form of video recordings. During Alfonso's murder, Mosquera had a camera running. The footage, later described in court, captured not just the act of killing, but the moments that followed. The control, the detachment, the way he moved about the room afterward. Prosecutors called it the coldest documentation imaginable, a window into the mind of a killer who saw violence as performance. Beyond that, street cameras showed him later that night hauling heavy luggage through city streets. Witnesses described the image as unforgettable, a man dragging two suitcases that leaked dark fluid as he crossed a well-lit intersection. Those same clips were used to map his route toward Bristol. The witness accounts and surveillance network expanded the timeline. Pub patrons near Clifton Bridge recalled the smell and the trail of blood seeping from the bags. A cyclist's GoPro recorded a distant figure matching Mosquera's build. Security cameras along motorways confirmed the same vehicle traveling west out of London hours before. In a case like this, the digital web, phones, CCTV, traffic cameras, public reports became the invisible net that finally tightened around him. Taken together, these strands formed a single, unbroken chain of premeditation and consistency. Prosecutors argued that the careful selection of weapons, the dismemberment, the freezing of remains, and the financial manipulation afterward all pointed to motive beyond rage. This was about control, gain, and domination, an act of violence committed by someone who wanted to profit from, erase, and rewrite the lives of those he'd destroyed. The evidence didn't just prove guilt, it revealed intent, and in a case defined by horror, that intent was what ultimately sealed the verdict. When confronted with the evidence, Mosquera claimed he had acted in fear. His defense argued that he had been assaulted by Alfonso and that the killings were acts of panic. But prosecutors dismantled that narrative. The planning, the digital research, and the calm dismemberment were inconsistent with panic. They painted a portrait of a manipulative man, one who thrived on control, who turned intimacy into power, and who viewed others as disposable. The crimes, they said, were not spontaneous bursts of rage, but deliberate executions born from entitlement and greed. Mosquera's trial at Woolwich Crown Court unfolded over several months. He pleaded guilty to manslaughter for one victim but denied murder. The jury watched the footage, heard the forensic evidence, and listened to witness accounts. Every detail, the hammer blows, the stabbings, the freezer contents, the leaking luggage, was laid bare. On July 21st, 2025, the verdict was read, guilty of 2 counts of murder. The courtroom fell silent. The judge ordered a psychiatric evaluation before sentencing, but made one thing clear: the brutality of these acts, the desecration of bodies, and the cold efficiency of concealment made this among the most disturbing cases to ever reach his bench. The aftermath left London shaken. The LGBTQ+ community, the adult entertainment industry, and the public at large were horrified. Many questioned how charm, intimacy, and trust could mask such violence. Police called it one of the most chilling investigations of their careers. The prosecutor's final statement lingered with everyone who heard it. This was not passion, this was possession. The case became a grim reminder that evil does not always wear the face of a monster. Sometimes it smiles, it flirts, it lives next door, until the mask slips and the truth is revealed. Thank you for watching this deep dive into the Yostin Andres Mosquera double murder case. If this story chilled you and you want more true crime breakdowns told with clarity and empathy, make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on the bell for more.